Chapter 2. Off to the Enchanted Wood. The children ate their breakfast quickly. Mother told them to make sandwiches for themselves and to take a small chocolate cake from the cupboard. "You can take some doughnuts too," she said, "and there are apples in that dish over there. When you come home, I'll bake some potatoes in the oven and you can eat them with butter and cheese." "Oh, Mother, we will be hungry," said Joe at once. "Let's hurry up with the sandwiches. We want to start off as soon as possible." "Now be home by 6 or I shall worry," said Mother, "and look after your cousin Joe." Yes, I will. At last everything was ready. Joe packed the food into a leather bag and slung it over his shoulder, and then the 4 of them set off to the Enchanted Wood. It didn't take long for them to get there. A narrow ditch was between the lane and the woods. "You've got to jump over the ditch, Rick," said Joe. They all jumped over. Rick stood still when he was in the wood. What a strange noise the leaves of the trees make. It's as if they're talking to one another, telling secrets. "Wisha washa, wisha washa, wisha washa, wisha washa, wisha washa," whispered the trees. "They are telling secrets," said Beth. "And do you know, Rick, if the trees have messages for us, we can hear it by pressing our left ears to the trunks of the trees, and then we can really hear what they say." "Wisha washa, wisha washa, wisha washa, wisha washa, wisha washa," said the trees. "Come on," said Joe impatiently. "Let's go to the faraway tree." They all went on and soon came to a mysterious magic tree. Rick stared at it in great astonishment. "Wow, it's simply enormous," he said. "I've never seen such a big tree in my life, and you can't possibly see to the top. Goodness me, what kind of tree is it? It's got oak leaves, yet it doesn't really seem like an oak." "It's a funny tree," said Beth. It may grow acorns and oak leaves for a little way, and then suddenly you notice that it's growing plums. Then another day it might grow apples or pears. You never know, but it's all very exciting." "How do you climb it?" asked Rick, in the ordinary way. "Well, we will today," said Joe, "because we want to show you our friends who live inside the tree. But sometimes there's a rope that is let down so you can climb up. Or sometimes Moonface lets down a cushion at the end of the rope and then pulls us up one by one." He swung himself up into the tree and the others followed. After a bit, Rick gave a shout. "Wow, it's extraordinary! This tree is growing nuts now, look!" Sure enough it was. Rick picked up some and cracked them. They were hazelnuts, ripe and sweet. Everyone had some and enjoyed them. Now when they all got very high up indeed, Rick was the most surprised to see a little window in the trunk of the faraway tree. "Goodness, does somebody just live here?" he called to the others. "Look, there's a window. I'm going to peep in." "You'd better not," shouted Joe. "The angry pixie lives there and he hates people peeping in." But Rick felt so curious that he just had to peep in. The angry pixie was at home. He was filling his kettle with water when he looked up and saw Rick's surprised face at the window. Nothing made the pixie more angry than to see people looking in at him. He rushed to the window at once and flung it open. "Peeping again?" he shouted. "It's too bad. All day and nights people come peeping. Take that!" He emptied the kettle of cold water all over poor old Rick. Then he slammed his window and drew the curtains across. Joe, Beth and Franny couldn't help laughing. "I told you not to peep in at the angry pixie," said Joe, whipping Rick with his hanky. "He's nearly always in a bad temper. Oh, and by the way, Rick, I must warn you about something else. There's an old woman who lives high up in the tree who is always washing. She empties the water down the tree and it comes slish-sloshing down. You have to look out. Make sure you see her or you'll get very, very wet." Rick looked up as if he expected the water to come tumbling down at once. "Come on," said Beth. "We'll come to where the owl lives soon. He's a friend of Silky's and sometimes brings us notes from her." The owl was fast asleep. He usually only wakes up at night time. Rick peered in at his window and saw the big owl asleep. He couldn't help laughing. "I'm enjoying all this," he said to Franny. "It's quite an adventure." The children climbed higher and came to a broad branch. "There's a sweet little yellow door with a knocker and a bell," cried Rick in surprise, staring at the door set neatly in the trunk of the tree. "Who lives here?" "Our friend Silky," said Joe. "Ring the bell and she'll open the door." Rick rang the little bell and heard it go ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Footsteps pattered to the door. It opened and a pretty little fairy looked out. Her hair hung around her face like a golden mist. "Hello, Silky," cried Joe. "We've come to see you and we've brought our cousin Rick, who has come to live with us. He's having a lovely time exploring the faraway tree." "How do you do, Rick?" said Silky, holding out her small hand. Rick shook hands shyly. He thought Silky was the loveliest creature he had ever seen. "I'll come with you if you're going to visit Moonface," said Silky. "I want to borrow some honey from him. I'll take some popcakes with me and we'll have them in Moonface's house." "Whatever are popcakes?" asked Rick in surprise. "Wait and see," said Joe with a grin. They all went up the tree again. Soon they heard a funny noise. "That's old Mr. What's-his-name snoring," said Joe. "Look, there he is." Sure enough, there he was, sitting in a comfortable chair and his hands folded over his big tummy and his mouth wide open. "How I'd love to pop something into his open mouth," said Rick at once. "Yeah, that's what everybody wants to do," said Joe. "Moonface and Silky once popped some acorns in. And Mr. What's-her-name was very, very angry. He threw Moonface up through the hole in the cloud and put him into some strange land up there." "Where's the old saucepan man?" asked Beth. "He's usually with his friend Mr. What's-her-name." "I expect he's gone to see Moonface," said Silky. "Come on, we'll soon be there." As they went up the tree, Silky suddenly stopped. "Listen," she said. They all listened. They heard a curious noise. Slishy, sloshy, slishy, sloshy, slishy, sloshy, slishy, sloshy, slishy, sloshy. Coming nearer and nearer. "It's Dame Washalot's dirty water coming!" yelled Joe. "Get under a branch, everyone, quick!" Rick wasn't as quick as the others. They all hid under big branches, but poor old Rick wasn't quite under his when the water came pouring down the tree. It tumbled onto his head and went down his neck. Rick was very angry. The others were sorry, but they thought it was funny too. "Next time I climb this tree, I'll wear my swimsuit," said Rick, trying to wipe himself dry. "Really, I think somebody ought to stop Dame Washalot pouring her water away like that. How disgusting!" "Oh, you'll soon get used to it and dodge the water easily," said Joe. On they all went up the tree, and at last they came to the top. They saw a door in the trunk of the tree, and from behind the door came the sound of voices. "That's Moonface and the old saucepan man," said Joe, and he banged on the door. It flew open and Moonface looked out. His big round face beamed with smiles when he saw who his visitors were. "Hello, hello, 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 hello! Come on in, come on in! The saucepan man is here!" Everyone went into Moonface's curious round room. There was a large hole in the middle of it, which was the beginning of the slippery slip, the wonderful slide that went round and round and round and down inside to the tree, right to the bottom. Moonface's furniture was arranged around the inside of the tree trunk, and it was all curved to fit the curve of the tree. His bed was curved, the chairs were curved, the sofa and the stove. It was all very odd. Rick stared at it all in great surprise. He felt as if it must be a dream. There was somebody very peculiar sitting in the sofa. It was the old saucepan man. He really was a very curious sight. He was covered with saucepans and kettles, and he wore a saucepan for a hat. You could hardly see anything of him except his face and his hands, oh, and his feet. But he was covered everywhere else with saucepans and things. He made a tremendous clatter when he moved. "Who's that?" he said, looking at Rick. "Oh, this is Rick," said Joe. Rick went forward to shake hands. The saucepan man was very deaf, though he did sometimes hear quite well, but he nearly always heard everything wrong, and sometimes he was very funny. "Chick," he said. "Well, that's a funny name for a boy." "Not Chick, but Rick," shouted Moonface. "Stick," said the saucepan man, shaking hands. "Good morning, Stick. I hope you are well." Rick giggled. Moonface got ready to shout again, but Silky quickly handed him her bag of popcakes. "Don't get angry with him," she said. "Look, let's all have some popcakes. They are freshly made today. And Moonface, do tell us, what land is at the top of the Faraway tree today?" "The land of Topsy-Turvy," said Moonface. "But I don't advise you go there. It's very uncomfortable." "Oh, yes, let's," cried Rick. "Can we just peep at it, please?" We'll see," said Joe, giving him a popcake. "Eat this, Rick." Popcakes were lovely. Rick put one in his mouth and bit into it. It went pop at once, and he found his mouth full of sweet honey from the middle of the cake. "Oh, delicious," he said. "I'll have another." "Oh, Joe, please, let's take our lunch up to the land of Topsy-Turvy. Oh, please, please, please." That was the end of chapter 2. The next chapter, chapter 3, the land of Topsy-Turvy, will be coming soon.